What qualities do you look for in an applicant?
I preferred if the applicants were direct with me. If I just had an employee hand me an application that someone kind of turned in, it didn't really set them apart from the rest of the pile. So a lot of the times it was when they turned in the application, if I remember them and they made a good impression on me, I would make note, I would remember that name. So I think initially it was how direct they were, how approachable, and I mean, I was nervous when I came in with mine, so I'm not looking for like a very charismatic person, but someone who comes in and, presentable, they seem attentive. I think those were probably the main initial ones before the interview.
What kinds of answers do you look for in an interview?
Well, I know for me personally, I would go off script with a couple of them and ask questions that were a little out there or different, not non-traditional interview questions, because I wanted to see how they would think on their feet. So it's not necessarily that you gave me the wrong answer, because there wasn't really a right answer, but it was, why did you pick the answer, and explaining it. I kind of wanted to see how people would think on their feet, because a lot of things in a restaurant, especially ones as busy as Panera Bread, is a lot of things happen unexpectedly. And you kind of have to, move fast with them.
What is one of the best answers you've been given in an interview?
I remember I asked someone the question, it was actually a really good friend, I still talk to him, it's been like 8 years, but I asked him, I said, why should I hire you? And it took him completely off guard, but he gave me a genuine answer, and it was his very first job, and he said, well, I want to work hard, I've never had a job before, and I think this would be a great start. And it was a genuine answer. I wasn't looking for, something out of a script, but it was his genuine answer, and I liked it.
What should an applicant do to prepare for the interview?
I think the biggest thing that kind of offsets people with the interview is the simplest part at the beginning. It's the very basic questions that we're not used to getting asked. It's the who are you and what do you do? So I think people naturally have a problem explaining who they are and why they want to work there. Just simple questions are not usually asked on a day-to-day basis. The harder non-traditional questions aren't, they throw people off, but it's not to the extent that the easier questions that you think would be really easy to answer.
What should an applicant do after leaving the interview?
Before you leave, actually, I would ask, when you would hear back from them, when you can expect to hear back, how many people they're hiring. And depending on that answer, I would suggest either following up if, they didn't give you a timeline on when to hear back from, maybe 4 or 5 days, either a phone call or I've always preferred the in-person, especially since you don't know how busy it is when you're calling them. But I would definitely recommend following up if it's only going to be a couple days, I wouldn't follow up. But, definitely thank them before you leave, and it's probably the biggest ones right there.
Describe the advancement opportunities for someone starting out.
I think they're very strong at Panera Bread. They moved me up. There's a lot of intermediate positions too. You just don't have to jump straight from associate to shift supervisor. There's associate trainers. Some people will work at nights as bakers that make a lot more money too. There's a lot of internal positions at the store level and the corporate level. So, I was still in high school when I started, and I moved up, and they hire people in high school degrees, and college degrees. So, I mean, it's a wide range of people coming in from the outside and people staying with it and moving up on the inside too.